I hung the 612th zip tie on my kitchen wall at 5:15 a.m. Nobody told me to keep count. I just did. 612 days. Since my daughter-in-law stood in front of a judge and said I tried to kill her. At 6 a.m., a guard rattled my cell door and said, "Reyes, you're out." I didn't move right away. 2 years teaches you that good news is usually a setup. But this was real. My lawyer was outside. My freedom papers were signed. And honestly? My knees were shaking, but my head was already 3 steps ahead, planning. People think revenge starts hot, all rage and shouting. It doesn't. It starts cold. It starts the second you stop asking why me, and start asking, what did they leave lying around? And my son Mateo left plenty lying around. 18 months before I got locked up, I found something ugly in the books. 41 payments to a logistics consultant that had no employees, no address, and no reason to exist, outside a P.O. box in Reno. Total, $2.3 million. I remember standing in the warehouse office with the printout shaking in my hand. I remember Mateo by the door, already talking too fast, already explaining things nobody asked him to explain. That's a tell, by the way. Innocent people don't over-explain. Guilty people write essays. His wife, Bianca, came down the stairs behind him, in this cream dress, hand resting on her stomach, like she was already rehearsing the scene. "You had no right to go through executive accounts," Mateo said. I almost laughed. I built that company from a 2-truck delivery service, in my 30s. I had every right. No cap. Bianca took a step back. Then another. Looked at Mateo, not me. And then, she fell. Down 4 stairs. Landing hard enough to bruise, loud enough to bring the whole floor running. Her scream hit before she even hit the ground. Mateo shoved past me, screaming, "What did you do?" And that sentence, not the fall, the sentence, split something in me, clean in half. This was the same kid whose fever I sat up with, for 3 nights straight, when he was 6. He didn't look confused. He looked ready. Like he'd been holding that line in his mouth for weeks, just waiting for the cue. By that night, police were at my house. By the next morning, Bianca told them I'd attacked her, during an argument about giving up control. Mateo backed every word. 3 days later, the story hit, she'd lost the baby, because of the fall. That detail is what really buried me. People didn't just believe I was guilty. They wanted me to be. Fast forward to my release morning. Before they even let me walk out the front gate, they routed me into a private room. Mateo was already sitting behind the glass, in a charcoal suit I 100% paid for, wearing his late father's watch like a trophy. Bianca beside him, calm as a lake. And then my daughter Camila walked in, and wouldn't look at me. That hurt worse than anything the last 2 years had. Mateo slid a folder through the slot. "Sign the final transfer," he said. "Then we can all move on." I looked at Camila. She said, flat, "Mom. Just sign it." For 1 second, my whole chest caved in. I had survived 2 years telling myself at least one of my kids still saw me clearly. Now she was asking me to hand over my last protected shares, like it was nothing. Then Camila tapped the folder, twice, with her finger. Once. Pause. Twice. Our old signal. From when she was 9, and I taught her to text me twice if she needed picking up from anywhere, no questions asked. It meant, play along, Mom. Trust me. So I picked up the pen. Mateo leaned in, already smug. I wrote 3 words across the signature line. Audit. Already. Filed. Bianca's face dropped first. Mateo shot up so fast his chair cracked the wall. "You don't have the authority for that," he said. "Then you've got nothing to worry about," I said, and slid the folder back. Outside, the air hit different. Bigger sky than I remembered. A black car was waiting across the street, and my old general counsel, Priscilla, stepped out and hugged me, hard. "Your son moved money last night," she said. "How much?" "Enough to panic. Not enough to disappear." Good. My first business lesson became my first weapon: don't come at the person, freeze the process. Back before prison, I'd quietly built a continuity clause into the family trust. If I was ever removed under disputed criminal circumstances, certain voting shares went dormant, until new evidence surfaced. Mateo knew about the shares. He forgot about the trigger. Rookie mistake, honestly. Priscilla filed notice of new evidence that same morning. The dormant shares came back online by 9:30 a.m. By 9:40, both banks got notice. Anything over $25,000 needed dual sign-off. 10 minutes later, Mateo tried to move $600,000. It bounced. He called me at 9:52. I watched it ring. Once. Twice. 3 times. Didn't pick up. When controlling people lose control, they don't get calmer. They get loud, sloppy, and start telling 3 different lies in one afternoon. So, I let him cook. By 11, he'd left 6 voicemails. Message 3, the money was for payroll. Message 5, it was for a supplier. Message 6, he'd report me for interfering with operations. 3 stories in 40 minutes. Priscilla actually smiled. He just handed us motive, inconsistency, and intent on a silver platter. He was always efficient, I said. It came out more bitter than I meant. It was bitter. We stopped at my house, the one my husband and I bought after 20 years of marriage, paid off in cash. There was a brand new keypad on my own front door. That's what finally cracked me. Not the cell. Not the jumpsuit. A keypad. Bianca opened the door before I even reached it, wearing my cashmere robe. My robe. "You can't be here," she said, arms crossed, like she owned the welcome mat. I held out a court order. Priscilla explained, calm as ever, the title was never transferred, the occupancy agreement was conditional, and it had just been revoked. Legal protection is boring, until it isn't. One stamp. One sentence nobody bothered to read carefully, 2 years ago. Bianca laughed, but it came out thin and shaky. "Mateo says this house is ours," she said. "Mateo says a lot of things," I told her. "Today, he learns which ones actually survive paper." She stepped closer. "You won't really put your own son out on the street." Classic move. Appeal to the mother, right after you've spent 2 years abusing the woman. I looked past her into my hallway. My family photos were gone. Some giant abstract painting hung where my husband's portrait used to be. Something in me went quiet again. "You have until 6 to grab your personal things," I said. "Everything bought with company funds stays." "You're being vindictive," she snapped. "No," I said. "I'm separating ownership from entitlement." Different thing. Mateo showed up an hour later, already talking before the car door closed. "You are humiliating us." "Us?" "No. Just you." "Never me." He looked so much like his father right then, it almost knocked the wind out of me. Love doesn't just evaporate after betrayal. It sticks around, with nowhere to go. "You testified against me," I said. "I protected my wife." "You protected a plan." His jaw locked. "You wouldn't step back. You treated me like a kid. You stole from the company." "I borrowed it. For expansion. Into your buddy's empty shell company," I said, and watched something in his eyes flinch. Small movement. After 2 years replaying that stairwell on a loop in my head. I've learned to read small movements. Bianca appeared behind him. "This is harassment." Priscilla lifted her phone. "Everything's being recorded." That changed the whole room's temperature. Documentation is the one thing dishonest people can't spin. They live off confusion, off shaky memory, off emotion. A written record burns the fog right off. Mateo dropped his voice. What do you even want? 2 years, I imagined saying I wanted him wrecked. Standing there, in real time though, I realized something less satisfying. Pain wasn't actually the goal. Truth was. I want my name back, I said. And I want you removed from anything you can still damage. Later that afternoon, Camila met me at a small hotel conference room. The second the door shut, she folded into my arms and just sobbed. I had to make them believe me, Mom. I'm sorry. I wanted to hug her and shake her, at the same time. Every silence over those 2 years had cut deep. You could have given me something. I did. The tapping. And the blue stamps. 3 letters had shown up with little blue flower stickers near the postage. Our old Code 4 safe. I'd seen them in prison and figured they meant nothing. Prison teaches you suspicion so well, that even hope starts looking like a trap. She opened her laptop. Executive emails, vendor files, internal messages, insurance records, she'd been quietly pulling receipts for months. One thread between Mateo and Bianca, from the week of the fall, make sure she finds the shell payments, then we confront her in the east stairwell. Cameras are down there. My hands went ice cold. This wasn't damage control anymore. This was a plan. My own son had scripted my downfall, like a group project. There's more, Camila said. Medical records showed Bianca had been treated at a private clinic 2 days before the fall. The pregnancy had already ended, naturally, before she ever hit those stairs. She'd signed an NDA and paid cash. The loss was real. The accusation was manufactured. 2 years of carrying guilt because my face got attached to her grief, and it turns out they'd built a weapon out of pain that had nothing to do with me at all. At 3, Priscilla laid out the play. Evidence goes in sequence: court, audit committee, insurer, regulators. Evidence alone doesn't move mountains. It has to land through channels nobody can just wave away. By late afternoon, filing accepted. Audit committee called an emergency morning session. Insurer froze payouts on 3 executive claims. And then, Mateo called again. This time, I picked up. Mom, he said, soft, like it still worked. We can fix this privately. Privately is how you broke it, in the first place. You don't understand what Bianca was going through. I understand more than you think, I said. Silence. Then, Camila gave you something. Not a question. How do you figure? Because the board just called an emergency meeting. He was breathing fast now. Good, I thought, then hated myself a little, for thinking it. He was still my son. Also still the man who'd done this to me. Come tomorrow, I said. Bring your explanations. 9 a.m., I walked into the boardroom through the front doors. The receptionist froze mid-sentence. 2 employees stood up. Then 4. Then applause, actual applause, filled the room. I'd imagined this moment feeling like winning. Mostly, I just felt tired. My old chair. Head of the table. Mateo was sitting in it. I stopped beside him. He looked up. Nobody said a word until he finally slid over to the seat on the right. First thing he willingly gave back. The meeting opened with procedure, dry, dull, powerful. Then Camila walked in with a red folder, and Mateo went pale. Bianca wasn't on the board, but she showed up anyway, demanding a seat at the table. The audit chair shut that down flat. The screen filled with fake invoices, altered approvals, shell vendors, the cameras are down message, the clinic records. Mateo tried denial, then confusion, then anger, and finally, landed on blame. Bianca said it would just scare her, he said. The room actually shifted. Bianca stood up. You planned this whole thing. And there it was, the alliance cracking, exactly where fake alliances always crack. Not from guilt. From survival instinct. Each of them trying to look less guilty by making the other look worse. I stayed quiet. People spill more when silence makes them uncomfortable. Always have. The vote came at 10:40. Remove Matteo as CEO. 11 in favor, 1 abstention, his. Security took his badge at 10:50. He set it on the table and looked at me. Are you happy now? I thought about the watch, the house, my daughter crying into my coat. No, I said. But I'm done protecting you from what you earned. That's the whole difference between revenge and cruelty, honestly. I didn't invent his consequences. I just stopped standing in front of him. 3 weeks later, my conviction got vacated. 2 months after that, the court wiped my record clean. The board offered to reinstate me as CEO. I said no, stayed chairwoman instead, rebuilt the executive team from scratch, and put every family-connected vendor contract through independent review. No more inherited authority, without receipts to back it up. Camila took over compliance. Not because she's my daughter, because she'd already done the actual work, at real cost to herself. As for Matteo, I didn't visit him. Not right away. People kept asking if I'd forgiven him, like forgiveness is a chore you check off a list. I stopped waking up angry. Stopped rehearsing arguments in the shower. Maybe that's forgiveness. Maybe it's just freedom. Either way, it's mine now. On the 1-year anniversary of my release, I went back to that east stairwell. Cameras working now. Walls freshly painted. I stood on the exact landing where Bianca had fallen, and put my hand on the rail. For 1 second, I was right back there, spreadsheet shaking in my hand, my son screaming, "What did you do?" Then it passed. I walked back up to the boardroom. My chair was waiting. Nobody had to save it for me twice.